Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss and talk about the price of the property in Malaysia, especially post lockdown, or if you're going to have another lockdown. Actually, I received a lot of calls from my clients after the lockdown, after the market is reopened, and they ask me about questions of whether the price of property has dropped because they are looking to buy a house for themselves or any other property that they are looking for. Well, my answer to them is depending on the type of property, and also depending on the location of the property, and also one more is depending on the price of the property. All this you have to take into equation. Why? To be frank, everyone that called me, they has 99% expectation that the price has crashed like the 97 crisis. No, not even close. Here's why I say that. The type of property what I meant is, if it's a residential property, it depends whether it's a condo, service apartment, low cost apartment, or it's a landed property, bungalow, semi-D, terrace, and low cost. All these plays a factor. And location as well, whether it's somewhere dalam deep inside the jungle, or it is a prime location. That is very critical when it comes to the pricing post lockdown. And lastly, depending on the value of the property as well. Let's start to assess the high-rise first. The high-rise are the most affected based on my personal opinion. Why? Because of oversupply. I know that developer constantly churning out new development of high-rise. So eventually, those that bought from developer, majority are investors. And when it comes to this time, say bad time, they are the first one who rush to sell. And when they rush to sell, and you are the homeowner, yes, you will be hit. But as a buyer, you could cash in a very good deal. And now for the high-rise, they have apartments and low cost. Those are not much affected because of one key issue: the value of property. So the next category, we move to landed. So landed pretty much are very safe bet, and hardly any changes in terms of pricing drop. However, it also depends on location, but we will get to that part shortly. So I'm going to talk to you about the high-end landed property, the bungalows, the villas, or even the semi-Ds. These are the highly affected property that has the highest drop post-COVID. Reason is because of their pricing. They command a higher value, and if you look at the price, let's take example of a $5 million bungalow. If it's just 1% drop in value, it's already 50,000 off the selling price. But if 1% to a terrace house, which costs 500,000, is only 5,000. So the gap, the price doesn't move that much for terrace compared to a bungalow. So let's talk about terrace houses, which is typically priced about 500 to 1 million. Those houses usually are less affected after the lockdown. Why? Well, maybe it's because majority of Malaysians are within this bracket. The income bracket, which can afford this price range. Combined salary, husband and wife, they could finance this type of property. So the transaction for this type of property are typically higher and much more active. From my experience, typically terrace houses below 1 million transact very fast. However, subject to location. Now let's talk about location. This is a very important topic to talk about when it comes to real estate. It's not an apple to an apple. For the same type of property, a bungalow, for example, in Bangsa, and a bungalow in, for example, Subang Jaya, the gap is like probably big. And how big? Well, an average bungalow in that area, probably in Bangsa or Hatamas, and those high-end area, it could command up to 8 to 15 million, sometimes up to 25 million, especially in Bukit Tengku. When it comes to Subang Jaya, for example, a typical bungalow could range from 3 to 5 million, and these are considered high-end in Subang Jaya. But in Hatamas, Bukit Tengku, or even Bangsa, you can't even probably get a semi-D, or maybe you could. So you see the gap is huge, and generally the bungalows in those high-end areas tend to transact better. It means it has a healthy transaction compared to bungalows in areas like Subang or other remote areas, for example. So I'm just giving an example. So that's why I said you can't compare a bungalow from one high-end area to a bungalow in another slightly mid-range area. The same thing applies to terrace houses in high-end areas as well. It could range from 1.5 all the way up to 3.5 million just to buy terrace houses. Where else, when you come to Subang Jaya or PJ, so the terrace houses hovering between 1 million and below or slightly above. However, the transaction for these terrace houses in this area are healthy, whereas the transaction in high-end area terrace houses may not be that much. So it is different. It's not apple to apple. So that's why I said location is the key. Typically matured areas like PJ, Subang Jaya, Puchong, but Puchong also depends on which part of Puchong. The main Puchong, yes, it's very developed and it's very mature. So the outskirts of Puchong is different story again. So it's a very long and deep subject to talk about. But generally, I'm giving you an idea. So when I come back to the issue of has the price dropped? Yes and no. It depends. So you need to assess what you're looking for. So if you are looking for a good buy for own stay, I'm not talking about investment, condos and service apartment are good because most of the owners are throwing prices. They are competing with each other. So you will be the one that is going to gain. If you're looking for a landed good buy, the bungalows and the semi-Ds would be a good value because they drop a lot, like I explained earlier, in terms of percentage. You will see much higher value in terms of price drop, but it's also subject to location. Landed prices for terrace doesn't really move a lot. The price didn't really move much even after post-COVID. Again, subject to location, but majority of them pretty much holding very well, especially prime and matured areas. Those rural areas, of course, there's less transaction. If there's anything less transaction, the price will definitely go down. Matured places like PJ, Subang, Puchong, example, have a healthy transaction even after post-COVID. So this video is pretty much about sharing information to buyers who are looking to buy houses for their own stay. As for investors, that is a different topic altogether. So I hope this video helped you in a way to decide what you're looking for. If you have any questions, drop me some comment below. So again, I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye. Let's begin. Basically, I received what the